Hi everyone, my name is Anton Albiin. I work for the Swedish Games Industry as a project manager and do a lot of different things there. Um, I apologize in advance that my voice might be a bit raspy. I have a blocked nose and stuff, you know, flu season. So let's go. I'm here today to talk about the Swedish Games Industry and give you an overview of where we are today and the state of the industry. So if you look at Sweden from abroad, this is usually what people talk about. That's for my generation and older generations. But if you look at brand awareness today, Volvo, Abba, IKEA, of course, still things people recognize. But the younger generation, they know about this. So both Candy Crush and Minecraft has a brand awareness of like 97% among kids today. I actually didn't know that kids played Candy Crush in that degree, but they probably do. Maybe everybody plays Candy Crush, I guess. So that's what Sweden is today, and we that just to compare to Volvo and Scania and truck exports, the games industry has surpassed our exports in those kind of old traditional industries that Sweden is traditionally proud of. So games is starting to become one of those. And to give you a short overview of like the span between indie and mobile and AAA and that entire ecosystem, we have multiple games in different genres. You see Vermintide down to the right, kind of a hardcore game for hardcore players, totally accurate battle simulator, a small little indie darling that's taken you to by storm by landfall. It Takes Two down to the left. The if you remember the fuck the Oscars guy, if I can swear, It Takes Two is made by his team, Josef Fares. They previously made Brothers and stuff. And Valheim, nobody probably missed that. Made by 1.5 people, a small indie team in Skövde named Iron Gate Studios. Um, they happen to sell, I think, maybe 10 million copies this year. Um, that's probably not public yet. I think it sold that much. Um, that's just my idea. A little Nightmares by Tarsier, all these different games. Battle Right, online games. The Division by Massive Entertainment in Malmö, triple A game, and of course up to the left, upper left corner, we have Paradox Interactive making Crusader Kings 3. They usually have a statement that their main core audience are people with 2 PhDs living in their mom's basement. So they have kind of a niche audience for their games. I've been trying to play Europa Universalis, I think maybe 20 hours, and I still really don't know exactly what I'm doing. So they are pretty hardcore. Anyway, so the idea here was I want to give you a picture of how vastly different games are made in Sweden. We of course have mobile games like Candy Crush and casual games as well. So there's a big difference between studios and what you will do there. So let's make a quick comparison to Europe here. We have two countries standing out. I got this slide from my colleague Johanna. So you have France there, the uh, biggest one, and then it's Finland and Sweden. So having a Nordic industry talent thing probably makes sense, I think. Um, that was just that. Back to Sweden, and I want to compare our industry to 2010 to give you a picture of how much it's grown. Of course, the entire games industry has grown a lot, but Sweden has grown faster uh, because of a lot of things I can't really bring into these short 10-minute presentation. But if you compare it to 2010, we made a game developer index report back then. We had a turnover of 1.2 billion Swedish kronor. That's 130 million euros and a profit of 1.7 million euros. There was roughly 100 companies and 1,200 employees. And then we made this new report this year. So that was released actually 2 days ago. So it's really, numbers are fresh out of the out of my colleagues crunching. And here we have the revenue today, which is 3,000 million. So that's 3.3 billion euros. Now we have 667 companies. So it's a completely different industry, of course. Back then we had Battlefield and some other titles and big industry players we thought back then we were really proud of. But it's been crazy, this ride. And we are very much bigger today. We have about 6,500 employees in the Swedish Games Industry. That's also grown a lot, as you can see, between 500, sometimes 800 people a year. And we have more women working in the games industry today than we had people total working in the games industry 10 years ago. So if people want to say sometimes that there's no women in the games industry, that's not true. I know plenty of them. We have about 21% women in the Swedish games industry, and the companies do a lot to hire more from other industries and getting more women into our industry. And a lot's been done in education. If you look at the gender divide in education, it's a lot better. It can be 40-60 at times, especially at game art and stuff. But that's also a different topic. Won't talk for too long about that. But yeah, that's been 10 years of large growth. And of course, being an employee at a games company in the Swedish games industry, you'll probably experience that in the coming years as well. Of course, nobody knows what's in for the future, but I definitely think that sorry, there's somebody trying to call me at the same time. Sorry about that. But you will definitely experience more of this. We have plenty of startups hubs in Skövde, up in the north, Boden, and in many different places. So I think there's going to be more Minecrafts and Valheim. I didn't think there was going to be another at all resembling Minecraft, but I think Valheim sort of did with a survival crafting game, taking the world by storm this year. So I mean, nobody knows anything about the future, but there's probably a lot to it. All right, maybe I should round that off. I think it's past 9:30 now. So maybe some questions. Thank you.
Anton, we received a lot of questions actually related to the education part of it. So I would like to ask, how is the Swedish games industry? Is it important to have the education in games to get started?
Not really. I mean, there's plenty of good education programs out there, both in Sweden and abroad. But the important thing is to have a portfolio and you have actually worked on the craft of making games. No matter where in the ecosystem you will be. So if you're an artist, you should have made game art in a team, in a game project that's playable, that's out there for people to try, hopefully. Hopefully you've released some games as well. So getting the games out there is pretty important. We have another question here. Are
there any gaming companies in Swedish Lapland?
Up around the level, there are. So we have that's actually the fastest growing industry in Sweden. Part of the games industry, the fastest growing game hub, I should say, is the one called Arctic Game Labs. So that's a collaboration between Boden, Skellefteå, Umeå, Luleå, and probably one or two more these days. But it's really growing up there, and they have education programs. They have an accelerator. So there's a lot growing there. Today we have Turborilla, Coldwood, and then some more companies. If you Google those, you should be able to find their neighbors as well. Sordix, Turborilla, and Coldwood are the biggest ones up there.
I know companies don't care about diploma that much, but what about Sweden itself? A game company doesn't decide to get a work permit. How does that work?
You probably need a work permit. I mean, if it's within EU, as I guess many of people listening are, then it's of course easier. If you want to work if you get hired from outside of EU, there's more bureaucracy to it, but it's not impossible, and the companies usually know how to work around that if they want to hire you. And there's plenty of services to get fast tracked. And if you have more questions about who can provide that, I can give you links after this.
How do you see the future of the Swedish games industry?
I think it's very exciting. There's plenty of games that have turned into like games as a service, and they need service for a lot more years to come. Like for example, Vermintide that I mentioned there, or Valheim, they both are online multiplayer, and they have a big player base. So they will probably have to be making these games 3 to 5 years as they're making new games. So we see a lot of growth in those type of games, and the communities around these games. And because of that, I think the industry can kind of grow, and people can do more. You can be like I wouldn't say a grunt working somewhere, but like there's more jobs, right? When you have more games out there that's being played. So games as a service, I think, provide a lot more jobs to the industry than ever before. So you can, as a junior, probably get in there and do levels or weapons, or something more adding to an existing game as the start of your career. Let's see here. Yesterday, I heard about a few Finnish companies that offer help when moving to Finland. Is there also a thing in Sweden? That's definitely a thing. It depends on the studio, of course. I mean, if you're getting hired by Supercell, they probably do everything, right? But if it's a small indie studio, they probably have less, tools to handle that. But there's definitely usually the bigger companies that have done that before. They know what they can help with. Some help with, if it's in Stockholm, they help with housing, and some, of course, don't have capabilities like that. But many do, yeah. So it's the same.